Hey gang! Using the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, will get you 10% off any order over $10 at Flipside Gaming. It'll also get you 10% off any orders of singles at Multizone. And it'll get you 10% off most products at Original Magic Art, with the exceptions of some paintings. If these fine sites don't have what you're looking for, you can also consider using my affiliate link when ordering from TCG Player. And if you'd like to join the generic Goblin Gang to support this channel, there's a link to my Patreon in the description below. Also, just a heads up, until November 4th, if you use my promo code, you get an additional 5% off any Magic accessory, Magic card, or Pokemon card purchase. Alright, we have another Multizone matchup headed your way. This week, Maxim is playing his Alela deck, keeping a Swamp, an Azorius Signet, Prismatic Vista, Spear of Heliod, Vampiric Tutor, Sun Titan, and Sublime Archangel. Dom is back with his Surrak deck, keeping a Forest, an Island, Birds of Paradise, Growth Spiral, Cultivate, Rurik Thar, and Prime Speaker Zagana. Max is playing his Queen Marchesa deck, Long May She Reign, and he keeps Athalia's Lancers, Shadowblood Ridge, Felwar Stone, Plains, Adriana, Mind Stone, and a Wear and Tear. Miguel is still testing out his Ghired deck, keeping a Forest, Xenagos the Reveler, Thragtusk, Sun Petal Grove, Nature's Lore, Sakura Tribe Elder, and Full Flowering. Maxim wins the die roll and starts us off. Maxim plays a Prismatic Vista, taking one to find a basic of his choice. Dom plays a Forest and casts Birds of Paradise. Max plays a Plains. Miguel plays a Forest. Maxim plays a Swamp and casts an Azorius Signet. Dom plays an Island and casts Cultivate. Max plays a Shadowblood Ridge and drops Felwar Stone. Miguel plays a Sun Petal Grove and casts Sakura Tribe Elder. Maxim plays another Plains, tapping out for Alela in his main phase, and passes turn. Dom plays a Mountain and casts Kadama's Reach, which he'd just drawn. Max plays a Clifftop Retreat and brings out Queen Marchesa. He becomes the Monarch and draws at the end of turn. Miguel also sacrifices his Sakura Tribe Elder for a basic Mountain. Miguel casts Nature's Lore to find a land, and passes while searching. Dom also uses this as a chance to cast Growth Spiral, drawing a card and playing one of the basics he found in his last two turns. Maxim plays a tapped Temple of Silence, scrying one, and bottoms it. He then pays 2 for Conqueror's Flail, gaining a fairy token from Alela. The flail goes onto his commander, and heading to combat, he hits Dom for 5 with her, gaining 5 life. Dom plays an Island and casts Rurik Thar. Max plays a Mana Confluence as his land drop for turn and casts a Silverblade Paladin, soul bonding it with his commander before passing through to his end step and drawing. Miguel plays a Mountain and drops Swag Tusk, gaining 5 life. Maxim taps his Signet for 2 to help pay for a Swiftfoot Boots, gaining a fairy token from Alela from casting an artifact, as well as taking 6 damage from Rurik Thar's trigger. He then equips it onto his commander, and this time Alela hits at Miguel for 5, gaining max 5 life. Dom is happy to trade 6 mana and 6 life for a Sylvalis Stampede in his main phase, and with only 3 cards in hand, he names Free. Knowing they can deny him a card as well by naming Free, everyone else votes for the same. This lets Dom drop a Prime Speaker Zagana, Regal Behemoth, and Progenitor Mimic. He has the Mimic come in as a copy of the Swag Tusk, gaining 5 life, and draws 7 from Prime Speaker Zagana entering with 6 +1/+1 counters on her. Dom then plays a Misty Rainforest, taking 1 to find a Steam Vents, and takes another 2 to have it come in untapped. He then taps his lands for 2 thanks to Regal Behemoth, and he casts Inferno Titan. The Enter the Battlefield trigger has Dom putting 1 point of damage on each of Maxim's fairy tokens, and 1 to Maxim's face. Dom then heads to combat, and hits Maxim for 6 with Rurik Thar, and he moves to his end step, drawing from Monarch. Max uses Nameless Inversion at the end of his turn to take out Dom's Thragtusk clone, taking 7 damage, 6 from Rurik Thar, and 1 from the Confluence, while Dom gains a 3/3 Beast. Max gains an Assassin token on his upkeep from Queen Marchesa, and he plays a Blood Crypt untapped, taking 2 before heading to combat. He swings the Assassin at Dom, who blocks with a Beast token. In his post-combat main phase, Max uses a Palace Jailer who comes in and makes him the Monarch, and also exiles the Inferno Titan. Max then draws at the end of his turn. Miguel has his commander come in, Ghired, who brings a Rhino as well, before passing to Maxim. Maxim doesn't seem to run more than 4 lands at this point, but 4 is still enough to cast a Sublime Archangel. This allows him to swing Alela at Dom without losing his commander, and he connects with her for 7, gaining 7 more life, and he passes turn. Dom plays a Cinder Glade, and pays enough for Terastodon, who comes in and blows up Maxim's boots and flail, with Maxim gaining 2 elephant tokens. Dom then has to swing Ruruk Thar, who heads at Maxim once again, and he just takes the hit. Dom then drops his own Sakura Tribe Elder before passing turn. Max plays a Plains and brings out Thalia's Lancers, going to find a legendary. He grabs a Circle of Loyalty, putting it to hand, and passes. Miguel draws and announces he's missing a color for the card that he drew, before heading to combat. He swings Ghired at Maxim, populating an attacking Rhino token, and dealing 6 total damage, 2 of which is Commander. Miguel then loses 6 life from Ruruk Thar as he casts Xenagos the Reveler, and upticks the Walker to make 4 red mana. He uses this to cast Full Flowering, where the X's are 2, and makes 2 more Rhino tokens and takes 6 more life loss. Maxim draws and is still struggling with lands at this point. He can still cast Angelic Exaltation though, which comes in and has Ruruk Thar dealing him 6 again, and Alela gives him a fairy token. With this on the field, it basically gives him double Exalted, which seems pretty decent. Heading to combat, Alela goes at Dom again, and this time she gets pumped by +5/+5 twice basically. Dom has no choice but to block with Ruruk Thar, and Maxim gains 12 life. Maxim then passes, and Dom sacrifices Sakura Tribe Elder to find a basic. Dom plays an island, and pays to entwine Tooth and Nail. He doesn't run any game-ending combos, and grabs Goreclaw and a Balefire Dragon, before moving to resolve a Temur Ascendancy. Before letting Dom leave the main phase though, Max uses Wear and Tear to blow up the Ascendancy, and with nothing else, Dom passes. Before passing to his own turn though, Max uses an Entomb to go and find Hakan and puts him to his yard. Max then plays a Swamp for his turn, before casting Hakan from his yard. We then see a Mind Stone, and he draws at the end of turn from being Monarch. Miguel upticks Xenagos for 6 mana, using it to cast his own Regal Behemoth, and becomes the Monarch. This returns Dom's Inferno Titan from under the Palace Jailer, and Dom deals the damage to Alela. Heading to combat, Miguel goes all out at Maxim, populating another Rhino token. Maxim blocks like this, taking out 1 Rhino and the Thragtusk, and then takes 18 damage. In his post-combat main phase, it becomes clear as to why he swung all out when Miguel puts to stack a Phyrexian Rebirth. This wipes the board away and gives Miguel a huge artifact horror creature, and Max loses 2 life from Hakan going to the graveyard. Miguel then casts Cultivate and passes, drawing from Monarch. On his upkeep, Maxim uses Vampiric Tutor to find a card and puts it on top, losing 2 life. He draws it and passes. Dom plays an Eternal Witness to return to his hand Selvala Stampede, which he recasts. Dom picks Wild, while the rest pick Free. He resolves the Wild first, revealing from the top of his library until he hits an Anger. He then gets to play some permanents from hand, putting into play Pyrrhemia, a Tally, and sadly nothing else. Dom then passes. Max recasts his commander, and becomes the Monarch once more. He then plays a Silent Clearing as his land for turn, and passes, drawing. Miguel draws for turn, and swings the Horror at Maxim. Before letting it connect though, Maxim uses Utter End to exile the beefy creature. Miguel then moves to resolve a Bane of Progress in his second main phase to wipe away all enchantments and artifacts. And then makes a Satyr token with Xenagos. Maxim finally finds his 5th land, which is sadly not an island, and he plays it, passing to Dom. Dom resolves a Shaman of the Great Hunt on his turn, before heading to combat. He swings both the Dinosaur and the Shaman at Maxim, and a tally triggers with the table revealing their top card. Dom is able to resolve a Somberwall Sage and an Enlightened Tutor. While Maxim takes the hit for 10, and Dom's Tally and Shaman gain a +1/+1 counter, the Tutor finds and puts Greater Good on top of Dom's library, and Dom then passes while Max cycles Canyon Slough to draw a card. Max plays that sweet late game mana crypt people are afraid of before dropping a Cavalier of Dawn to destroy the Atali and give Dom a 3/3. Dom realizes he should have activated the Shaman in response, and the table is fine letting him apply it retroactively as the dinosaur dies, which has Dom draw some cards. Max then brings back Hakan and passes drawing from the Monarch. Miguel plays a land and recasts his commander. He then upticks Xenagos for 5 mana, which is enough for Helm of the Host, and he passes. Maxim draws and passes. Dom plays a mountain and brings out Greater Good. Responding to it on the stack, Max uses Nameless Inversion because it's technically a night card, and takes out the Shaman. Dom then plays a Rhystic Study before passing. Max loses 3 life to his Crypt Trigger and draws. He then heads to combat, swinging the Cavalier at Xenagos, which Miguel blocks with the Bane. Before damage is dealt though, Max casts Nameless Inversion again from his yard, but this time on his own Cavalier to pump it to be large enough to take out the Bane. The 2 creatures trade, and with the Cavalier dying, Max returns Felwar Stone to his hand. He then recasts the Cavalier in his post-combat main phase with Hakan's ability because it's actually a knight, which I didn't realize, and as it enters, blows up Xenagos. We then see the Felwar Stone, which is tapped for a Vandal Blast to blow up Miguel's Helm of the Host. He then passes, drawing from Monarch. Miguel plays a Plains and casts a Wayfaring Temple and then a Mimic Vat, which has Dom responding to it while it's on the stack by sacrificing Anger to Greater Good, drawing 2 and discarding 3. Miguel then heads to combat and swings most of his board at Max. Max blocks like this and takes 7. Because he connected, Miguel then becomes the Monarch and passes, drawing at the end of turn. Maxim casts Sol Ring in his main phase and then a Sun Titan, letting him bring back his Prismatic Vista as the Titan enters from his yard. He cracks it, taking 1 to find a basic island. At the end of turn, Dom flashes in Surrak and sacrifices him to draw 6 and discard 3 to the Greater Good before starting his own turn. Dom plays a basic and brings out Zendikar Resurgent. He then plays Selvala, drawing from the Resurgent trigger, and Dom taps the rest of his mana, keeping 1 green floating in his pool, and puts the rest into a Genesis Hydra. He draws from the Resurgent trigger, and then reveals his top 9, playing out Mirror March. He then uses the extra green, and Dom taps Selvala for 9 green, and uses it to cast a Genesis Wave, where X is 6. He hits 2 lands, Phyrexian Metamorph, Rhythm of the Wild, Sarkhan's Unsealing, and Green Warden. He flips some dice for the match triggers, but sadly doesn't get any copies of them, and Dom then returns his Inferno Titan to his hand, and has the Metamorph become a copy of Sun Titan, which returns a force to the field. Dom is then able to cast the Inferno Titan, but once again gets no Mirage Match copies, and remembers to draw from the Resurgent. He also gets the Unsealing trigger and deals 4 to Queen Marchesa, and uses the Inferno Titan Enter the Battlefield trigger to take out Hakan, which has Max losing 2. We aren't sure at this point if Dom's creatures that came in with the Rhythm would have had Riot, so he plays it safe and only gives the Titan a +1/+1 counter. Heading to combat, the Genesis Hydra goes at Maxim, while the rest goes at Max to take him out, and deals with 1 of Miguel's Beast tokens, while the Sun Titan clone triggers brings back the Birds of Paradise. Maxim blocks with the Sun Titan, who sadly dies, and Miguel exiles it under the Mimic Vat. Dom also remembers to have the birds come in with a +1/+1 counter from the Riot, and he passes to Miguel. Miguel plays a Forest and casts Giant Ataphage, which I'm kind of not super keen on in a Populate deck. He passes, drawing at the end of turn from Monarch. At the end of turn, Maxim uses Mystical Tutor to find an instant or a sorcery and put it on top. He reveals Entreat the Angels, and moves to his turn. Maxim miracles the Entreat on his turn, making 6 4/4 Angel tokens, and passes to Dom. Dom resolves an Akroma's Memorial first thing on his turn, which doesn't speak well for his opponents. He then drops Time Spiral, and they resolve it, shuffling in their yards and hands and drawing 7. One of those 7s happens to be Dom's God Eternal Ronus, who, entering, pumps the board to be big enough for Dom to turn his creatures sideways and win. Game review time. So, thanks to Maxim for building Alela, It was great to see her, even if she didn't function very well in terms of drawing lands. Maxim probably would have been more of a threat had he been able to draw some more lands, but even so, Alela swinging for 12 is still pretty scary. I'm told mana doublers are good, and I think it certainly helped Dom win the game. That plus the fact that he went further into his library than anyone else, with things like Genesis Hydra and Genesis Wave, getting a ton of value out for him. I think Max's Queen Marchesa deck was fantastic, and I love the spicy interaction of Hakan and the Shapeshifter cards, plus getting back Cavalier of Virtue or whatever. They're really actually a fantastic cycle, and I'm hoping to experiment with them some more in the future. Miguel is continuing to refine his Ghired deck, which makes me feel like I'm off the hook since I don't have to now build it. I will say that some of his inclusions might have been outside of my wheelhouse, with things like Giant Adaphage and the Wayfaring Temple being cards that I wouldn't really necessarily consider, since they require you to connect in order to do anything. It can be very powerful when they do, but considering most of the time you have to wait until your next turn to attack with them, they seem a bit slow. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/mtgmudsta, and lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/mtgmudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.